Unit 7 Communication. 7.0 Introduction. This is the first unit of the third block. This block deals with the interpersonal processes that involve interaction between two and more than two persons. In this unit you will come to know about the relevance of communication as one of the interpersonal process. You will be introduced about the different types of communication as well as elements of communication process. At the end of this unit, the barriers of effective communication will be introduced to you. 7.2 Meaning and relevance of communication. 7.2.1 Meaning of communication. According to the American Psychological Association, communication refers to the transmission of information, which may be by verbal, oral or written, or nonverbal means, gestures, signs and symbols. It is a process that helps in exchange of ideas, knowledge, feelings, and experiences and is required for interpersonal and social purposes. Predominantly, language is a significant source which helps in exchange of thought and opinion of the people. It helps in sharing of information, decision-making, problem-solving and enhancing performance in organizations. It is a process through which information is passed from one person to another, a meaningful interaction that takes place with the help of a medium, for example, microphones, emails, digital media and so on. 7.2.2 Relevance of communication. Let us discuss about few of the relevance of the communication. It helps in transmitting as well as receiving of information through talking, writing, or making gestures. It is a source that helps in solving problems and decision-making processes in organizations. It helps the employers to convey the job responsibilities to the employees as well as receive feedback from them. It is a process with the help of which the doubts and grievances of the employees can be dealt with. Thus, indirectly it leads to motivation and commitment among the employees. Communication is a process with the help of which the attitude and behavior of the employees can be modified. For example, an individual who is well informed will definitely show better performance than the one who has no information. It is a mechanism that enhances socialization, networking and better team management among the employees of the organization. It acts as a controlling mechanism for the employers. It helps in controlling the behavior of the members of the organization. It helps in resolving conflict among the members of the groups and teams of the organizations. It helps in performing tasks and perform the job responsibilities by the employees. It facilitates cooperation among team members of the organization. 7.2.3 Functions of communication. By now, you might be aware of the relevance of the communication. Let us discuss about the functions of the process of the communication. 7.2.3.1 Expression. Communication is a relevant process in organization. It is one of the means by which employees express themselves, interact socially and share their grievances. In many professions, like lawyer, telephone operator and so on, their employment is a primary source of social interaction. It also leads to formation of the culture of the organization. 7.2.3.2 Control. With the help of communication, the organizations convey their rules, regulations, norms and culture. It also helps the organization to maintain discipline and laws among its employees. It helps the employees to share their feelings and opinions as well. 7.2.3.3 Motivation. Motivation refers to a driving force which inspires individual to act or response. Organization or the employers continuously try out ways to motivate their employees to perform efficiently. In such situations, organization needs to communicate its goals, feedback and also reinforces the employees to improve their performance. 7.2.3.4 Coordination. The organization's need to coordinate its activities, goals, processes, new developments and technology, etc., in order to achieve its targets. Such information may be imparted to the employees through regular meetings. In the meetings, the employers as well as the employees discuss issues such as production cycles, delivery times and other areas to achieve the desired outcome. Thus, communication helps in coordination within organizations. 7.2.3.5 Problem solving. Communication helps the employees of the organization to discuss the task-related problems. It helps in brainstorming potential responses and finalizing solutions. Thus, this ultimately benefits the organization. 7.2.3.6 Conflict management. Any kind of conflict among employees might lead to the loss of talented employees or lawsuits. With the help of the process of communication, employees can discuss their differences and therefore manage conflicts. 7.3 Elements of communication process. In the above sections, you were explained about the meaning, relevance and functions of communication. Now, let us discuss about the process of communication. Have you ever thought about how does the communication take place? What are the basic components or elements involved in the process of communication? This section will deal with the basic elements that are involved in the process of communication. Basically, there are 5 component / elements in an idealized communication system. 7.3.1 Source / sender. Source refers to the medium from where the communication starts or originates. In speech as a means of communication, the source is the person who is speaking, while in a written message, the source is the writer. 7.3.2 Transmitter. It is used to transmit or broadcast information through a mechanism like radio or television signals. 7.3.3 Channel. In order to transmit or pass on the communication in between the source and destination, there exists a channel through which the communication is transmitted. For example, when a person is speaking, air is the channel of communication, while in writing, the paper is the channel of communication. 7.3.4 Receiver / destination. Receiver refers to the end person who is receiving the information that is being sent by the sender. For example, a person who hears the speech or reads the message for whom it was meant are the receiver or the destination of communication. 7.3.5 Feedback. In order to keep a check whether the information has been properly communicated to the receiver, the sender needs a continuous feedback. Feedback can be in form of a verbal or non-verbal response. It helps the sender or the source to confirm whether he / she has sent the message accurately or inaccurately. It also provides an opportunity for the receiver to ask for clarification. Feedback helps in increasing the accuracy of communication. 7.3.6 Noise. Any voice / signal or sound that creates an interference in the proper sending or receiving of message is called noise. For example, the microphone starts creating a loud noise while you or your boss is speaking. Such a noise will be physical noise, but many a times our thoughts act as a psychological noise as it may disrupt the focus of our listening to, or reading any information. 7.3.7 Encoding and decoding. Encoding refers to a process in which the sender codes / converts the information that he / she has to convey in his / her own words / ways, while decoding is a process with the help of which the receiver decodes the information and tries to understand it. 7.4 Process of communication. The process of communication involves exchange of information between sender and receiver, and is a cyclical process. As discussed earlier, the one who is conveying an information is a sender or the source, and the one who is receiving it is the destination or the receiver. The position of sender and receiver is interchangeable. Let us try to understand this with the help of an example. If a teacher is explaining a phenomenon in the class, then teacher is the sender and the students are the receiver. In the meantime, if a student asks a question to the teacher, then the student becomes the sender and the teacher becomes the receiver. Further, the information is sent to the receiver by the sender with the help of any channel. The communication gets effective with the help of feedback, while gets ineffective in presence of any noise. 7.5 Types and Network of Communication. In this section, we will discuss about the different ways or types of communication that we use for communication with others. Later on, we will also discuss about the different networks of communication. 7.5.1 Types of Communication. In general, there are two different types of communication. Let us discuss about them one by one. Verbal communication. Any communication that involves the usage of words is said to be as verbal communication. Words can be used while speaking or writing, and that is why messages sent through speaking or writing is said to be verbal communication. It is the responsibility of the sender to take care of pitch, tone and clarity of words while speaking, whereas, while writing, the message or the information should be self-explanatory. Oral communication can be in form of speech, while written communication in form of emails, digital messages, books, newspapers, letters, reports and so on. Nonverbal communication. Any communication that is done without the usage of word is known as nonverbal communication. In such a type of communication, an individual uses body languages like facial expressions like smile, frown and so on, gestures, eye movements and hand movements to communicate with others. Even the traffic signals and signboards that you might see showing symbols of directions, arrows and signboards are said to be as nonverbal communication. 7.5.2 Networks of communication. Communication network refers to the pattern of contacts and the flow of information among the members of the organization. These pattern of networks helps in smooth flow of information. The network depends upon the size of the organization, availability of communication channels and the number of persons involved in the process. There can be many patterns of communication network as follows: downward/top-down communication. The information or the communication that takes place from a higher level, as per the hierarchy or position of employees, in an organization to a lower level is termed as downward communication. So, any information that flows from superiors to subordinates through a chain of command is called a downward communication. With the help of this pattern of communication, the supervisors/managers transmit work-related information to the employees at lower levels. They also give feedback on the lower-level employees' performance, description of their job role and other related aspects. Upward/down-up communication. Upward communication refers to flow of information from lower-level employees to a higher level in an organization. It helps in providing feedback on how well the required job is being done by the subordinates to the managers or the supervisors. The subordinates also use upward communication to convey their problems and performances to their superiors. This pattern is also used by the subordinates in sharing their feelings and ideas. In order to encourage this pattern of communication, organizations provide grievance redressal system, complaint and suggestion box, job satisfaction surveys and so on. Lateral forward/horizontal communication. The pattern of communication that takes place at same levels of hierarchy in an organization is called lateral communication, i.e., communication between peers, between managers at same levels or between any horizontally equivalent organizational member. This pattern of communication helps in coordination of tasks, problem solving, team building, information sharing and resolving conflicts among peers and colleagues. Diagonal communication. In this pattern, communication takes place between a manager and employees of other work groups. Such an interaction might take place in training modules, when a training manager interacts with all work groups to inquire about the way they perform their task. Wheel chain. In this pattern, the top leaders have direct access to interact with all the employees. Such a pattern of communication saves time and helps in getting direct feedback. But, in such a pattern of communication, the employees cannot directly interact with each other. 7.5.2.1 Grapevine communication. Grapevine communication is a communication which takes place in a random manner, that is, does not follow a recommended structure in an organization. It is a kind of informal communication. So, grapevine communication can be described as a casual and unofficial communication system within the organization. Such interaction with reference to organizational related issues may take place unofficially in the lunch hour or tea time breaks. It helps in enhancing team building and interpersonal relationships in an informal way. With the help of exchange of information, the employees are able to get on the same page/platform with their co-workers. So, grapevine communication can be said to be an unofficial and quick conversation that takes place usually among the members of the same rank or position. Now, let us discuss about the various types or ways in which grapevine communication takes place. 7.5.2.2 Types of grapevine communication. Single strand chain. As mentioned to you earlier also that the grapevine communication usually takes place between the employees at the same level. In the single strand chain the message is passed from one person to another until the information reaches almost to all of the concerned people. It's a simple and uncomplicated way of communication among colleagues. It is an ideal way of communication for sharing information quickly and efficiently. Gossip chain. As it can be clearly understood from the figure that in the gossip chain, one person is at the epicenter of the communication wheel who seeks and shares information to others. Probability chain. In this form of communication, the information is shared randomly. In fact, the recipients, those who receive the information, too, follow a similar random way of sharing the same information. This is a process of sharing information randomly. The recipients, too, follow a similar random way of sharing the same information. Cluster chain. In this kind of the grapevine communication, a sender or the person or the employee relays information to a few people, who in turn pass it on to selected people. You might be wondering what is the relevance of grapevine communication in organization. It is an informal way of listening to others, including their grievances. It also helps in identifying the needs and problems of the team members. It is a communication which skips the complicated formal channel. Though at times, an employee might just end up sharing sensitive information when they are not supposed to do so. 7.6 Barriers to communication. Even if the process and pattern of communication is well defined and well organized in any organization, yet there are chances of misunderstanding and breaks down in the communication network due to certain gaps, obstacles and barriers. These barriers can be of various types including physical barriers and psychological barriers. Let us discuss about the different types of barriers to communication. 7.6.1 Physical barriers. The physical barriers are the external or environment-related obstacles that create hindrance in effective communication. Few of such barriers are as follows: distance. Any communication which is taking place within a hall or at a specific place, where individuals are physically present, might not be effective if the distance between the sender and receiver is large. Though nowadays several online meetings take place due to the advancement of digital technology, irrespective of the distance between the sender and the receiver. Noise. As discussed earlier, if the background noise, which may be the sound of horns, vehicles, microphone, might disrupt the interaction between the sender and the receiver. Technology. Absence of loudspeakers, microphones or the public address system may become a physical barrier when one has to communicate to large number of members in a face-to-face meeting. While lack of internet facility or other technologies disrupts the smooth flow of communication. Organizational climate dimension. Interpersonal relationship among group members is a significant organizational climate dimension which might influence the process of effective communication. Unfavorable relationship might lead to misperception and wrong decisions in organizations. Different time zones. The differences in the time zones of the sender and the receiver also creates a barrier to effective communication. Time separation leads to lack of coordination in the process of communication. 7.6.2 Psychological barriers. Many a times the emotions and mental capacities of individuals also act as a barrier to communication. Psychological barriers result in fear of expression, anxiety, absent-mindedness, lack of interest, excitement or many other related attributes. Assumptions or preconceived notions. Effective communication will not take place if the sender already assumes that the receiver has understood the information and seeks no feedback from them. Further, the personal experiences or the preconceived notions makes the sender or the receiver judgmental and cause a breakdown in effective communication. Emotional state. The emotional state of the individuals can act as a barrier to communication. If the sender is angry or is aggressive when he or she sends the message, it will affect the way in which the receiver interprets the message and vice versa. Attitudes and values. Attitude refers to a pre-learned disposition and is a result of self-experiences, beliefs and values developed within individuals over time. A strong belief on a particular topic might lead to a positive attitude and the sender or the receiver might react sensitively towards the information and the individuals might not be ready to listen or speak anything against it or vice versa. Fear of negative self-image. Many a times with a fear of creation of negative image among individuals, he/she might not express the information with clarity or transparency. This would lead to transmission of misinformation or incomplete information. Poor listening skills. If the receivers are impatient and tend to listen selectively, then also the complete information may not be received by them. 7.6.3 Other barriers. Apart from the physical and the psychological barriers, there are several other barriers that might also hinder the process of effective communication. They are linguistic barriers. The incapacity to communicate through proper language leads to inability to express experiences and views orally or in writing. Further, if the language of transmitting of information is not known by the sender, then also the information will not at all be clear to the receivers. Cultural barriers. Globalization and acquisition of companies has led employees of different nations to work together. Each nation has its unique culture and indifferences in culture also leads to hindrance in effective communication. Social factors. The indifferences in social status of the individuals also prevent effective communication. Hierarchy, position and designation of employees also obstructs smooth flow of information. Discussed above are few of the barriers that create a hindrance to the smooth flow of communication. though there may be several strategies that can help in overcoming such barriers. For example, with the help of language training, linguistic barrier can be minimized. Awareness and training programs can also help in overcoming the barriers to effective communication. 7.7 Let us sum up. It can be summed up from the above unit that communication plays a significant role not only in organizations but also in daily life transactions. We discussed about the meaning, relevance and functions of communication. It was followed by the various elements of communication process. There are different types and patterns with which communication takes place in organization. We also discussed how grapevine is a way of spreading information. At the end we discussed about the various barriers that obstructs the process of effective communication.